Good evening. Hope everybody is doing well. I one of the things that I make sure to do in life is to take a completely fresh look at anything that comes my way. I try not to use any preconceived notions, nothing. I try to take everything and just look at it with fresh eyes. I think we rob ourselves of true independent thought unless we do so. And so oftentimes there will be things in society that I look at and, I kind of have to give it those eyes. I don't know how to describe those eyes. But, what the F? There are several things, and I don't mean to cause any trigger warnings or anything like this, but I need to give you an example. One such of these times is the whole autism thing. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm talking about all the people that ran out and got tattoos. They have all kinds of things, more or less advertising autism. And I've often made the comment that it almost seems like they're celebrating it. We were warned about that, by the way. And I've always asked the question, why are people essentially celebrating this horrible issue that is an epidemic at this point, and nobody's questioning it. Nobody's really saying, oh, wait a minute. Look at these autism rates when they started going through the roof. What's going on? Who's asking those questions? I mean, I know there are individuals. We're one of them. But in the big theater, who's asking those questions? No one, because nobody's allowed. There are many things throughout life that I look at with those fresh pair of eyes, and I question. A little more recent example was the masks with the whole COVID thing. Right? I didn't jump to a blue opinion or a red opinion. I had my opinion, which stayed the same from the very beginning to the very end, and guess what? Turns out that was the correct opinion. Maybe because it wasn't an opinion. Imagine that. And I'm not saying neener I was right. That's not the point. I wanted people to do what was best for them. It wasn't about a political toy for me. It wasn't about a political football. It was about health. Common sense. But apparently not so much in society, because, see, everything's got to be a competition. Everything's got to be a competition. How many times do I see a meme, or used to, that would have the person in this profession, whatever, you name it. And the meme would be something to the effect of, why should somebody working fast food make as much as me? And it would be a nurse, or it would be a mechanic, or it would be a... And I'm asking myself, why are we asking this question? Shouldn't everybody be making more? Maybe that's what we should be asking. Because that was the true answer. And I just look at these things and I question, I'm like, why is it that we want such horrible things for each other in this country? We want such horrible times for each other in this country. Why? And you see, it's a very, very, very sick psychological game that they're playing with you. They're making you think that all of these resources, everything that is around you, is very limited. Very limited. And obviously some things are much more limited than others. And hey, that's laws of nature. That is true to some extent. But there's a whole lot of things in this world that we aren't even remotely close to reaching our limits on. In fact, most things on this planet we're not even close to reach. There is no problem with population. That's an agenda. There is no, we're running out of resources on the earth. That's an agenda. Several of them, actually. There is, at this point in time, and for any foreseeable future, plenty. And in fact, you hear about we're going to run out of fossil fuels. Well, you know, they got real quiet about that ever since I heard that they had strong reason to believe that many of the wells that they had emptied out were filling themselves back up. Guess that resource wasn't as quite limited as what we were told it was. You don't hear them talk about that anymore, do you? About the oil shortages. No, the shortages are somewhere else in the chain. Not necessarily out of the ground, unless you live in the United States, where they're not allowed to pump anything out of the ground because and none of this is by chance. Not a damn bit of it. And the latest thing to get people at each other's throats is paying or partially paying for an education. That has gotten people off the charts at one another. And I make no sense of it. And I once again, that's why I started out tonight's broadcast the way I did. Once again, this is a situation in which I looked at with fresh eyes. Fresh eyes. Not anything that had been taught to me throughout the years. Nothing. Nothing. I've got two things I consider when I look at things with fresh eyes, and that is the Bible and the Constitution, and that's it. And I look at this situation regarding education, and this is nothing new. I've said this on the show many times, and this spans many different things, not just education. Pardon me. It spans many things. It could span into healthcare. It could span into so many things. But what floors me, and it seems that it goes this way regardless of what it is, whether it was the crash in 2008, that we better do something, because if we did not do something, there would be no America. Remember that? I remember that. And that was the craziest damn thing ever. All these banks got huge sums of money. Right? Oh, they were told they were going to have to pay back. But did they? Then you got the automotive industries that got bailed out at the same time. Many other industries got bailed. Where was your bailout? Oh, you didn't have one? Oh. Now, fast forward to 2022, and the federal government is once again handing money over to banks that earn that money using predatory practices. Both times, no different. Whether it was a housing problem in 2008 or whether it's this student loan problem right now, that was both predatory lending. But instead of punishing the banks, instead of telling the banks, no, we're going to cut their debts and it's going to be on you. You've made enough. Have a good life. Goodbye. Instead of doing that, nope, we're going to pay the banks. We're going to pay the banks and we're going to use tax dollars to do it. And we're going to once again fire up this side of the country against this side of the country. Because the more we can get them fired up, the more we can take from them. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what's happening in your country right now. And the sickening psychological thing I was talking about earlier is how they will take a little bit, they'll take a morsel. And they'll make people fight over it. And they'll make people afraid to death. Then not only will they not get a little more morsel, but that they might lose what morsel they have. And I would say that's a pretty good description of where they've got a lot of the average Americans today. Not a good recipe. It is not a good recipe. There is no clear way out of this. I see this as becoming a very big issue in the coming months. Because I think things are going to continue. I think the heat, if you will, is going to continue to rise on the average person. Bills, I think, are going to be harder to pay. Food is going to be more expensive. Scarcity is going to be greater. I think that they have manufactured an economic crisis. Again, I have to go with that. Because, folks, they can put a stop to this at any damn moment they want. If Joe Biden can kick that money printer on high so that he can send billions of dollars to Ukraine so we can kill people or help kill people, then explain to me again why people can't be done right with what's going on. I mean, because this is a global issue. I have a real hard time believing that no nations would be willing to work with one another trying to figure out ways to cancel debts, you know? Because most of these nations owe each other money. Just as much as we owe China a bunch of money, they owe us a bunch of money. We all owe each other a bunch of money, some way or another. I may not be using the proper terminology, but they've got all kinds of different monetary tools to confuse you with. And the different nations are actually heavily invested in one another. Now, that being said, nations like Russia and China have been heavily selling off their U.S. assets for some time now. So, that's probably something that should be noted. But, I'm telling you, we might want to do some serious soul searching And I want to remind folks of what I've been saying as of late, been trying to get this across to people. Make sure you're paying attention to the people that are most important to you. And just as a reminder of who those people are, when I say that, that's everybody in walking distance from you. Those are the people that are most important. Because if something major goes down, something truly major, that's the people you're going to be most interacting with. Those are the people that you're going to have to work together to see your way through things. There's no two ways about it. No two ways about it. That's why I'm a very strong advocate of the small community mindset, not the small group, no. It's going to take a community. If you're going to be able to, if you're going to be able to have security, production, and all of that, it's going to take a community. A small group's not going to do it. And then what happens, because inevitably things are going to happen and you will lose members. One way or another. It doesn't have to be, that's why I don't understand a lot of the logic in a lot of the prepping world. They almost act as if they're just going to be their own little bubble, completely shut off from the rest of the world and never, ever, ever letting anybody in. And that is the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, it truly is. When you really pull yourself back and you look at the big picture of it, it's pretty damn silly. But hey, they're a lot cooler than I am. Anywho, I really honestly didn't have a subject tonight. I just happened to see a back and forth on social media over this student loan deal. I thought, you know what? I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll talk a little bit about how they successfully have gotten us to rip each other apart and rip the fabric of the nation completely to shreds, to the point that it's not recognizable. I shared an article out. I think I did. Wait, I don't know if I shared it out or not. I may not have shared it out because it was entertainment. So, but it's Ozzy, so I could have. Apparently, Ozzy's moving back to England. Now, his first initial claim is that, it's because of the gun violence. It's because of the mass shootings. However, it would appear that a lot of the decision is also relying on the taxes that he was being charged in L.A., and that was made very clear in the article. However, it's mind-blowing to me how they've used entertainment to divide people and how they're continuing to do so, because that's exactly what that's intended to do. That's exactly intended to take people that may like Ozzy, and it makes no sense to me because Ozzy didn't used to be anti-gun. And it may not be that he's anti-gun. It might be he might be anti the nonsense that's going on in this country, like he claims. And I get that. Gun laws isn't going to fix that, though. We got to go back and address the other things to fix that. And we got to stop trying to rip our nation apart. We have to stop trying to compete with each other for every single damn thing under the sun. Life is not a competition. If you are living life as a competition with everything you do, you are living it wrong. Plain and simple. It's supposed to be about a journey. And I understand that some people want more things on that journey, so I understand the extra production. I damn well was one of those people. I get it. Now, I'll tell you what. In its current state, we have nothing but a rigged game. And they have tricked most people in blaming each other for it. And that's just a fact. Try to understand. My recommendation is try to understand other people's position. Just try. Because I'll tell you what. You know, I'm not a dumb feller. And I went to college. My college was paid for due to a program. JTPA, Job Training Partnership of America, was what paid for my college. My college was paid for. Didn't have to pay a dime for it. Thank goodness, because I wouldn't have been able to go to college. Now, let's back up. Went to college. What good has it done me? Nada. Nothing. You know what I found out? I found out that when you go to college for auto mechanics, for that particular course, right, which was 2 years, that particular course would qualify you, in all reality, would qualify you to work in an auto parts store. 2-year college course in auto mechanics would essentially qualify you to work in an auto parts store. That's no joke. 4 years, you'd be a lot more likely to get into a shop. And I think you could actually get an ASC certification with 4 years of college if you pass the test. Otherwise, you got to have, I think it is 2 years of college, and then I don't know if it's 2 years of work experience to get the ASC certification. It's been a long time. So even after your schooling, all that schooling, you still ain't jack squat until you got the ASC certification. It's a gimmick. And I'm 50 years old. That was 30 years ago. It was a gimmick 30 years ago. It's 10 times the gimmick today that it was then. So I get it. I get both sides of the argument. I could totally get the idea, or the side of the argument where taxes shouldn't be going to pay this stuff. Totally understand. Again, my solution is tell the banks to screw off. That's my solution. It's crazy. Why isn't anybody asking that? All I see is two groups of people fighting. How come nobody's standing up and saying, hey, wait a minute, why are we paying these crooked banks? Because of pieces of paper? Pieces of paper that people violate and screw each other over on every single day? Oh, those pieces of paper. I guess it all matters which pieces of paper we want to make matter at the particular time we want to make a matter, right? It's pretty much how law works right now. And we wonder what happened to our nation. That's it. In a nutshell. And what happens is when people cover for the people they like doing bad things. Then you just get two groups of people doing bad things, nobody holding themselves accountable. And then it just becomes a competition of who can cheat the most, or who can be the most primal. I kind of have a feeling the Father had better expectations of us than that. Just a thought. But anyway, I don't have tabs open. Well, I've got one tab open. I don't have tabs open because I looked through today and I just I don't know. Anyway, I did want to make sure to bring light to this article here. So, low fuel inventories cause special concern in the U.S. Northeast. So we are starting to hear something about it now. Diesel and heating oil supplies in the Northeast are more than 50% below the recent average. And this kind of makes me twitch my eye a little bit. The recent average? Explain. But they don't, of course. Raising concerns that an extreme weather event could cause supply disruptions, federal officials said. Fuel supplies are lower than normal across the country for a variety of reasons, including the war in Ukraine. Of course, I got to mention that. But it's the worst in the Northeast. Diesel fuel and heating oil, which comprise the distillate category, are 63% below the 5-year average in New England and 58% below the same average from Maryland to New York, according to a survey by the Department of Energy. Gasoline inventories are not as bad, but are still at their lowest levels in nearly a decade along the entire East Coast, the agency said. I'm sorry, but that just looks like it's being done on purpose to me. The Northeast is heavily dependent on heating oil to keep homes warm in the winter, while other regions rely more on natural gas and electricity. Also, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has projected an active hurricane season and a powerful weather event could cause disruptions, since most fuel consumed from the middle Atlantic states to Maine comes from the Gulf Coast refineries, energy officials say. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm is convening a meeting of New England governors and their energy directors after Labor Day to discuss the situation. In the meantime, she has urged governors in a letter to take whatever steps they can to shore up fuel supplies in the coming weeks to prevent any problems. The Energy Department also sent letters to 7 major oil companies asking them to hold onto their stocks to help offset low stocks. The federal agency has been monitoring the problem and is attempting to be proactive with outreach, but there's little incentive for buyers to stock up on high-priced fuel for storage because it is anticipated that the prices will drop, said Michael Ferrante of the Massachusetts Energy Marketers Association. The fuel inventory concerns come against a backdrop of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and blah, 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 cry, cry, cry. In New England, the immediate concern in the late summer is diesel fuel, but the winter heating season looms not far behind. Sorry, they try to interject that as if that really has any effect in all reality. Like that has any effect. Okay, whatever happened to this notion that energy was part of national security and that we should never allow ourselves to become so dependent on another nation? What happened to that? Because that just got blown all to hell. And I even remember Obama talking about energy independence and being national security having so much to do with energy independence. Now, I'm not saying that he was going about it the right way. Not saying any of that. But he talked about it. Now we don't even talk about it. It's like, yeah, well, we can't do this or that because then we won't get our 50 ships of oil from Russia that we sanctioned. But we okayed a workaround on their oil because we need it, and it's ridiculous. It is absolutely, completely ridiculous what is going on. I ain't got no answers. The only answers I have involve torches and pitchforks and a whole lot of sacrifice for every single person in this country. Would not be pretty. Aside from that, we're screwed. Period. Just the way it is. Get ready to bow down or sacrifice. One of the two. One of the two. We ain't got a choice. As in whether or not we want to participate in this little Hunger Games. So we either play the game, and they actually no, I didn't. You're talking about chat, right? Oh, okay. Somebody walked past on the camera too. Somebody walked past outside too. Let me see. There was something else too that I was going to say. No, I did not cover that. The fire at the refinery in Indiana. That was not one of RT's headlines today, and I had forgotten. And I forgot to go nab one other than RT just so that I would have it in there. But yeah, there was a refinery fire in Indiana today. Apparently a pretty serious one that, I don't know. I know that it's been said that they make jet fuel and stuff like that as well at this location. Again, a lot of this stuff is manufactured, plain and simple. Because I'll tell you what, there's one thing that the United States can do. They can pump a whole hell of a lot of oil, and they can refine a whole hell of a lot of oil. We can do that when we want. That's the problem. Right now, they don't want. It's crazy. It is so crazy what's going on in the energy world. And I don't know how much of them are fighting each other, or I have no idea, because you have to understand the whole I don't know how to word it. The entire picture, if you will, of energy is changing. It has to. For one, technology alone advances. And come on. There is only so long that we can hold ourselves back and keep ourselves using primitive, inferior stuff. And that's what we've been doing. Just being real. That's what we've been doing. Trust me. If we don't blow each other all to hell in the next coming years, or months, take a look back 15, 20 years from now. Look at what vehicles we're driving then. And tell me I was wrong. We are holding ourselves back right now. Tremendously. And people will see that soon enough. Some people already do. People that dabble, they already do. Anywho, let's do some headlines and scurry out the door. I don't know. I'm just tired. Tired. I'm suffering from nobicodocious. And I've had it for about a week now. And but I should be cured within the next couple of weeks. Nobicodocious. Yeah, nobicodocious. I'm out of lighters. All of my Bic lighters have died, and so, nobicodocious. But I do have this little like torch thing that I got butane that I can refill. So I've got Bics on the way. Don't get me wrong, but for now I'm suffering from nobicodocious, and it sucks. Don't ever put yourself in that position. Let's see. It does. It is a big fail for a prepper, though. We like to buy things in bulk, and so we'll actually let ourselves run dangerously low on something, because we buy in bulk, and lighters are something that I use and go through. Not an insane amount of them or anything. But anyway, so when I buy lighters, I buy them a dozen at a time, or this time I bought 14 of them. And so I thought, in fact, I still swear that there's a lighter here somewhere, because I'm pretty sure I had one left. I just can't find the one I had left. And I had already had it planned in the works and all of that to order lighters. It's already in the plans. But I thought I had one lighter left, and I didn't. So, yeah, that's why I just buy Bic. I don't mess around, and I know I could buy 1,000 of the cheap lighters for the same amount of money, but man, you just can't beat a Bic. Yep, I got a 2 packages of 7 coming. So, go Amazon. I usually buy, it's a dozen. It's 2 6-packs. And you can, choose what color. I usually just get gray ones. Gray man. It's not a tactical Bic, man. Anyway, alright, let's see. Judge scraps Texas gun restriction, and I can't remember what the hell restriction that was. Hang on. Aha. That barred Texans under the age of 21 from carrying handguns. So, that's actually a big deal. Zuckerberg says Facebook censored Hunter Biden story after FBI warning. Sounds illegal. ACLU challenges ban on filming police. EU electricity prices soar to new highs. Russia to broaden scope of national currencies trade. U.S. explains why it won't supply Ukraine with longer-range missiles. EU city, oh, by the way, this is Friday's news. I'm sorry. Friday's news. EU city wants exemption from Russian sanctions, says media. Pentagon reveals plan for civilian casualties policy. Ukraine summons Vatican envoy. UK energy bills to rise by 80%. Insanity. Pentagon watchdog doubtful Kiev tracks U.S. weapons. Let's see. Ukrainian website threatens thousands of people, including Americans, with extrajudicial killings. Power costs in Germany hit historic highs. Belarus delivers on its nuke promise to Putin, says Lukashenko. Russia releases video of drunk U.S. embassy worker. South Korea seals nuclear deal with Russia. Ukraine's de-Russification fraught with future dangers, says Politico. Norway refuses to cut gas price for Europe. UK facing national disaster, says London mayor. Scholz party split on Ukraine, says media. Germany Scholz sets limit on weapons for Ukraine. Hackers sell NATO secrets, says BBC. Ukraine receives hundreds of shell-dropping drones, says media. Again, this is Friday's news. Artillery hits Zaporozhye nuclear dump. EU nation wants to resume buying Russian gas. France seeks to mend fences with energy-rich former colony. CIA meddling in Russia and Turkey business, says media. A Pacific nation snubs U.S. request to dock ship, says media. A TikTok challenge sparks rampant car theft. European gas prices continue to soar. Russia responds to Zuckerberg's FBI revelations. U.S. continues to import Russian goods, says AP. U.S. won't be able to replace Russian uranium, says an official. Coca-Cola reluctant to leave Russia. A record $1.1 billion haul of meth is seized. A Russian church drafts exorcism rules. Their head cannot spin more than 3.5 times. Let's see. Blast kills police chief in southeastern Ukraine. Sounds like something George Carlin would come up with, right? The exorcism rules. You cannot projectile vomit over 20 feet. Let's see. Blast kills police chief in southeastern Ukraine. Banks in EU countries sued over anti-Russian sanctions. Only 1 in 3 UN members back new anti-Russia resolution. Serbia promised riches for abandoning Kosovo. Macron speaks up about problems in France and UK relationship. Amnesty issues warning about Donbass tribunal. And hang on, let me have a sip of coffee. We are to yesterday. Yesterday. What? I don't remember any of the rest of the lyrics. Yesterday. See? And she don't help. Supposed to back up, and I got no backup. Yesterday. Yeah, nothing. Oh, man. Okay, well, since I guess we're not turning it into karaoke night, we're gonna continue with news. Moderna sues big pharma rivals over vaccine patents. We're on yesterday's news, just as a reminder. New York man admits to ISIS-inspired terror plot. I'd be just as embarrassed to admit I was from New York, but hey, U.S. border agents seize millions in fentanyl. Education official sacked after probe into Florida school shooting. And by the way, that's going way back to the shooting in Coward County. UK households struggle to pay energy bills, says a poll. Life was such an easy... I can't remember how to sing it. I never knew how to sing it. I can't sing. Let's see. Where the hell was I? I mean, and that's a big question in itself. I mean, where am I in the whole space-time continuum? Because then we could have a big discussion on that. But I was more along the lines of where the hell I was here. Let's see. U.S. border agents seize millions in fentanyl. Education officials sacked after probe into Florida school shooting. Oh, that's where I was. And I read that one. UK households struggle to pay energy bills, says a poll. Here I was. Assange files... get out of there. Assange files appeal against U.S. extradition. Rising gas prices could drive Polish energy firms into bankruptcy. Kind of racist, ain't it? I mean, why is it just the Polish ones? Sanctions war isn't going as planned, says The Economist. Mexico's imports from Russia soar. UN comments on U.S.-Russia nuclear arms talks. Blame West for global inflation, says former Czech president. Electricity prices in key EU markets hit record highs. Wonder how many times they got to say the same thing over and over and over. Because they've been saying it over and over and over for days now. Weeks, going on weeks. Ex-Russian president names condition for using nukes. EU will lose billions without Russian tourists, says official. Finnish firm warns of toilet paper shortage. UK announces drone shipment to Ukraine. Serbia cancels Euro Pride event. A South African state may join Russia's Mir payment system, says an envoy. Pentagon signs deal to make air defense systems for Ukraine. The U.S. comments on American fighter death in Ukraine. India negotiates resumption of LNG supply from Russia. BBC accused of politicized hiring. Nation becomes first to ban white models. 12 dead, dozens injured as fighting erupts in Libya. Serbia-Kosovo deal reached. Serbia comments on Russia gas supplies. Sanctioned Russian diamonds flowing to the global market, says Bloomberg. Actually, that was this morning I shared that. So, one moment. Hang on, my thumb is itching like crazy. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I've got thumb fungus. Thumb fungus. Probably something to do with that. I don't know. What the hell did I call that? Bigadocious something? No bigadocious? Anyway. Let's see. Once again, today's headlines. Hungary issues Russia sanctions warning to the EU. U.S. sends warships through the Taiwan Strait. Ukraine following U.S. blueprint to fight Russia, says CNN. UN assembles team for Zaporozhye nuclear plant, says New York Times. Russia can afford complete halt in gas supplies to the EU, says Bloomberg. EU leader ashamed of asylum seeker treatment. Energy bills may force Brits to return to the office, says media. EU faces major challenges due to anti-Russia sanctions, says Burrell. You know, by the way, that's going to be an interesting thing because many companies are talking about switching more to the at-home work where they can with the rising energy costs, because then that means they don't have to keep an office building heated. So it's going to be an interesting back and forth there, I'm sure. Sacked Ukrainian ambassador lashes out at German official. Greece targets Turkish jets, says media. Soaring energy prices could cost UK billions, says Guardian. A German shopping center switch off escalators, says media. UN voices concern over Assange extradition case. Pakistan flood death toll exceeds 1,000, says officials. Germany vows to support Ukraine for years. A Russian ex-president makes grim forecast for gas prices. 50,000 Ukrainian refugees face homelessness in the UK, says media. EU to suspend visa deal with Russia, says Financial Times. Taliban warns Pakistan over U.S. drone incursions. Berlin preparing for nationalization of Gazprom Germania, says media. And you're going to see that, I think, in nations across the planet. You're going to see a squeeze put on everybody. And again, across the planet, every nation, a massive energy crunch put on its citizens. And you're going to see a big push in every one of these nations to nationalizing the energy grid, you know, so that you wouldn't be so screwed over anymore. You watch. Turkey blasts Macron's imperialism remarks. China deploys ships and jets near Taiwan, says Taipei. U.S. expands weapon deliveries by sea to Ukraine, says Washington Post. Britain's financial support for Ukraine to run out by New Year, says Sunday Times. UN Children's Agency comments on airstrike in Ethiopia. EU can't let Putin set energy costs, says Austria. Why? They have for a long time. Everything was fine until lately. Dugin names target of attack that killed his daughter. Zelensky promises to recapture Donbass. A teen arrested with TikTok-inspired Molotov cocktail. 7 nations ready to revoke recognition of Kosovo, says Belgrade. And I read the last article to you. Today has been a little bit of a kind of a slow day. Once I did the initial news articles this morning, it's been kind of a slow day, really. I have a feeling we might be heading into a busy week. We'll see. But I don't know. That's what I got for you. I don't have anything else. I reckon I'll jimmy out the side door, and God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do it again. So, anyway, I appreciate everybody coming. I hope to see you tomorrow. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.